People are reacting with shock to a recent video showing a young girl being tormented and allegedly assaulted by a group of older girls outside the Avalon Mall. The video shows the young girl cowering and repeating, "I'm sorry," as the older kids slap and kick her while apparently playing it up for the camera. The girl's mother's going to join us live just after 8:15, but first I'm joined by a psychologist, Dr. Janine Hubbard, a regular contributor to the VOC Morning Show. Welcome back, Dr. Hubbard.
Thanks for having me.
For me, it's not like I'm pure as the driven snow. I've been down by Rennie's River and seen some fisticuffs, and the crowd eggs you on, but the feature of the camera brings an additional layer to it. Well, how do you think that plays into these incidents of assault, not bullying?
Oh, absolutely. It has changed the element completely. We know that these kind of incidents have always occurred. Sometimes people think it's a little bit more shocking when they see a group of girls as opposed to a group of guys, but this has been happening for years. The added element of the camera has changed a couple of things. It has increased the bystander effect for sure, in terms of it's become normal to just stand back and film and watch and not intervene. But there's also a perceived social status that comes along with getting videos that are going to go viral, that are going to become popular. There are websites that are dedicated to nothing but teenage fighting. And the more popular your video becomes, the higher your status becomes.
And it speaks to how brash everybody's become. You know, it wasn't so long ago, it would be off in the shadows or down the alley where something like that would happen. Now, no problem having your face on camera to go viral online, which everyone can see. Your future employer, your teacher, your mom, your dad. I find that to be fascinating.
Well, and again, that's part of how the teenage brain is still underdeveloped, and it doesn't think about those long-term consequences. It's thinking about the short-term, immediate effect from things. So the only kind of mixed blessing that has come around with a number of these videos is it's actually made it a lot easier for schools and parents and the police to investigate and proceed with investigations around some of these. Whereas if it's something that happened, behind the school where nobody had cameras, nobody could see anything, it becomes a bit of a one person said versus another person said. And again, people aren't thinking through the fact that actually you're giving the police evidence.
How should we talk to kids about this, or young teens? Because when a headline says bullying is making fun of what someone's wearing or the color of their hair. This is an assault. So how should we be talking to children?
Well, we do know that the most common form of bullying tends to be the online or the social, but we know that about 6% of boys and about 4% of teenage girls do report being involved in physical bullying. And again, the reasons behind it are multivariate. It could be because of a perceived slight. It could be, again, as a way to gain social status. It could be some social conflict. It could be a way of getting revenge. Like, there's lots of reasons behind this. But we do know that it can be a form of bullying, and sometimes it's just purely a form of entertainment, unfortunately.
And I think you're right with your opening comments that there's a certain different reaction coming because it's girls. Now, I don't really know if that struck me as a unique feature of this video, but what about the difference between boys and girls in this type of behavior?
Well, like I say, we tend to, in terms of girls, see a lot more subtle and social bullying, things like social exclusion. So it's often that somebody's being left out of things very deliberately or being talked about behind their back. Or, again, it's a lot of the online name-calling or slandering that happens, whereas, yes, historically, boys have been more involved in kind of the physical altercations.
We want to focus on the victim and to do what we can to shield and protect them. How about the so-called bully or the aggressor? Because sometimes someone who has been hurt is the one who's likely to lash out and hurt someone else. And I'm not trying to give an excuse, and I'm not trying to cuddle them or coddle them, but how should we consider that facet?
Well, and again, that is an important consideration, and that's why I'm pleased that, first of all, a lot of media, including yourselves, are not posting the full video. They're, looking at, say, screenshots, but that people are identifying the fact that these are underage minors. And there's a reason we treat underage minors slightly differently, even in terms of the criminal justice system, because, as I said, we know that their decision-making skills have not yet been fully developed, and it needs punishment, but it also needs an understanding of what has led to some of those behaviors, what's going on with it. But the fact that it's a group as opposed to a one-on-one, again, needs to be investigated, because we know that group dynamics are going to egg on and encourage this kind of behavior.
I know this is not your area of expertise, but some of the passerbys are absolutely mature adults. There had to be. I mean, outside a major shopping centre, the whole bystander effect is one thing. What do you think about those who just chose not to make a yell out at the kids to break it up and or intervene on behalf of the young 12-year-old? What about the passersby?
And that is a really fascinating effect because there's a couple of things. When we are involved in a social situation and we don't know how to react, sometimes it's because we're not aware exactly of the extent of what's happening. Sometimes it's fear of being dragged into things. We look to the crowd around us to see what is the norm in terms of the way people are acting. And we've seen a difference in these kind of situations. There was an episode a couple of years ago where, again, there were some girls involved in a physical altercation, and the boys in the background started to yell out when they thought it had gone too far, and it stopped. In this case, you've got people continuing to egg them on and encourage them, which keeps it going. And it's amazing. All it takes is one or two people in the crowd to intervene, even just a, hey, what's going on? Stop. So if I can send out any message to people watching this, that is really helpful. But again, it comes with repercussions. If you're a teenager, you're worried that you're going to be the next target. If you're somebody walking through, you don't know whether this, you've got a group of people who are involved in a physical fight. You don't know whether you're putting yourself at risk.
And what do we do on the aftermath here? It's one thing to see the video, identify the faces for people to get involved, whether it be the RNC, school administrators, teachers and or parents. Some parents, I'm sure, listening this morning are fearful that their child might be the aggressor, might be the so-called bully. But there also might be a lot of parents who are simply naive to think that their kids might not be involved because the mob mentality overtakes people very, very quickly.
Absolutely. I think it's an important and a really good discussion point to be able to talk to people and say, look, again, as you said, this is allegedly an assault. And that has criminal implications. And reminding people, being very careful about what you are filming and posting. If you happen to film something like a fight, the urge to post and to share is immediate because, again, that's part of the teenage mentality. Share it with a trusted parent, share it with the police. Do not distribute it more widely than that. Is one of the big pieces of advice. But sit down and have a chat with your kid. Use this as a catalyst to say, hey, is this something you've ever seen? How do you think you could handle it?
And even the best, most mannerful, well-reared child might get sucked into a situation like this because it's the peer pressure, it's the gratification of being accepted. There's a lot to it. Janine, anything else you'd like to offer to the listeners this morning?
Just being aware that this is something that happens probably far more than most adults are aware of, and use this as a good discussion to sit down and talk to your kids.
Always good to have you on. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Dr. Janine Hubbard is a clinical psychologist